Okay, let's get started with 0.93 patch, and I think this is the last patch, right? The patch is focused on addressing balance changes, implementing a new system for stages, and this will be the last patch of 𝗧𝗵𝗶 update 1. We are now fully focusing on 1.0, so this is the last patch apparently that we are getting.
Before 1.0 hits.
We have extended the trade filter to cover eggs in the trade house. I guess for people who use auction house, this is good for them, right?
I mean, everybody should be using the auction house. It's just a good system.
Okay, let's get into the spicy stuff here. So balance, this patch introduces the new 8-stage system. So basically, every +1 you get is now 25%, right? All the way up to 250%.
Yes. That is true.
Do you think this is better or worse in a quick glance?
It's definitely better because it allows for having 8 stages compared to the 5 of 8. Just more flexibility when it comes to balancing things. It lets you tweak things slightly before. With the 5 stages and the 50% increase, it was like if you move something up a stage, it was a pretty relevant buff, and if you moved it down the stage, it was actually a pretty hard nerf. So I think this is a positive change. I don't really see a downside to it.
The only downside I can think of is that themselves saying that this is the last patch before 1.0. So they added this system so that they can make changes swiftly to adjust some stuff. But on the other hand, they also say that they are not going to touch anything until 1.0. You know what I mean?
Unless something breaks, but 1.0 is probably 3 to 5 months out, maybe. But
yeah, that's fair. All right, let's get into the Temtem changes. So neutral Chromion actually gets awful song. Do you think it will even be used? I don't think so.
Well, your moveset is going to look like it probably won't be used, but it is interesting to have. I think he would probably use microwaves. Microwaves, probably neutral torrent, undermine, and
hologram.
Yeah, hologram. That's normally the moveset. I believe Awful Song has hold to it, so I don't think it's going to be used, but it's cool that it does get that.
So Grandpa, stamina increased from 39 to 44. Do you think it required that?
Yeah, Grandpa has always been suffering with stamina. The old man runs out of breath pretty quickly. So it's a good buff. I would have honestly liked some more because I was looking at the stand calcs for Grandpa actually a couple hours earlier. And it's better, but it's still like with hypoxia being 32 if you want to play like standard special attack. Grandpa, it's still pretty costly. It is still pretty costly.
Okay, next up we have 𝗂𝗶𝗶. Defense increased from 57 to 60 and special defense from 49 to 52. I think most of these changes they have is just from their data, I would guess, right? Like they think this might require this and that's why they gave it to those temps kind of thing.
I would assume so. That a lot of balancing is done with the information that we can't see.
What do you think of Inky? Sparks has been added to its move pool.
It's cool. I was in a VC with a couple of the boys the other day going through the patch notes earlier. And the Inky Sparks was something that stood out to me, even though they stated that Inky is a term you'd want to be Sparks in and not being used as the Sparks there. I think there's actually a really fun, interesting set there. You could go support Inky with like Spark, Sacrifice, maybe Chain Heal. But it's probably not going to make Inky any better.
It's just still in the air.
It's just an option you have, really.
I mean, someone will definitely try it out because there are some Sparks players out there who will definitely try everything possible, right? Although it might not be the most value.
I don't know if Inky's the thing they want to be using. Even, I think Amphitya or Return are just better. Even Ragnat, 𝗬𝗓𝗻𝗃, they're just more reliable as Spark is compared to Inky. It is a cool thing you can run.
What do you think about 𝗹𝗫? HP reduced from 84 to 81, attack from 80 to 77. Do you think it is a good enough nerf, or just this is a slight band-aid kind of thing? Where
I
it's
mean,
just
Yg's gonna get continually nerfed over and over and over again. And honestly, I won't be surprised if it gets nerfed again by 1 point there, because the Tem is a bit ridiculous. See, I'm always happy to see a 𝗹𝗫 nerf.
that's fair. So I think we should skip the Tems that are just getting some stat changes, because that's mostly based on data, which we can't really predict much about. The gameplay, of course, a little bit might change, but let's take a look at all the moves that are going on. So Acronox, Soil Steam has been added. I think it's way better to have Soil Steam now instead of Mud Shower, right? Like everyone will be using Soil Steam instead of Mud Shower.
Yes. Yeah, it's basically Mudrid. When Mudrid got Soul Steam, nobody was making use of Mud Shower anymore. Although I think there have been some exceptions. People use Mud Shower for standards. Soul Steam is a very good addition to Nox's move pool. So, yeah, and it makes the Scorpion a lot better, like way better.
𝗬𝗀𝗇l is finally getting Beta Burst added to its move pool. Would you consider it to be a proper mental Tem now? Because it was lacking turn 1.
It's more of a mental Tem than Mix, to be honest. Yeah, this is good. Vento's kind of been lacking. The only move that it had was Untitled, and they nerfed it by 20 BP, I think, in the last spell. Was it the last one or the two? In a previous balance patch. Yeah, in the previous balance patch, they nerfed its only move by 20 BP, and it's just kind of somewhat struggled. Yeah, this is good, especially with the heavy melee meta we have. Vento might see some play.
What do you say about Arachnite? Awful song added. I don't think anybody's gonna use it, but do you think it's an option?
It's an option, but I don't think it's going to use it. Arachnite has so many moves already. Kind of a weird buff actually to give to Arachnite, given another move when it has so many things you want to click already. I don't know if you would ever use that. I mean, it could. AoE is nice, and if you're playing adaptive, you're gonna have some special attack and some special attack buffs if you play it in an efficient way. So AoE awful song might not be terrible. I don't see reason to use it, to be honest.
It is a, I don't know, it's a weird choice, to be honest. Some people might try, but it does not, it like the return from that is way too less than the risk you're running. What do you think about Aniton?
Oh, 6 HP is nice. It's tanky. They got its stamina buff that was bugged last patch. So yeah, there's some more things for Aniton later on. That's pretty big.
I see. Well, we need to see what it is. What do you say about Leech? Healing reduced from 35 to 30. Fixed damage reduced from 35 to 30.
Honest?
Go ahead.
Go on.
No, you go on.
Honestly, I'm surprised it's only 5%. I was thinking like a whole 10% damage reduction to it. And
yeah.
Honestly, this is good. Leech is... It's kind of unhealthy that you heal that much and you do so much true damage on a one-hold move. So yeah, I mean, agree with this stuff.
I would be the same as you, that healing should be down to 25 and the fixed damage should be 25 as well. But I would also like to have a small, like a line below that says if you stole only 10%, then you get only 10%, Because there's situations where you only do damage for like 3% to take a killing blow, but you heal for 30 still, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I would like that as well, to be honest. But I suppose if you do that, then you could probably want to leave it at 30 and not 25. But yeah. Either way, I like this Leech nerf. It could have been heavier, to be honest, but it's alright. In the right direction.
Next up, Savage Suplex, damage reduced from 150 to 140. Looks like a straight nerf to all those P-Jabbers, Skunch, Ŵęnmedd, 𝗹𝗫, all of them taking a little bit. But I still think Savage Suplex is kind of busted, What do you feel about it?
The move is still cracked. It's still cracked. The 10 VP nerf will help you live if you're up against it every now and then, but I don't think it's that substantial that they'll be feeling it too hard, especially with PJAP still exists and 𝗏𝗏 having Aggressor, even though Aggressor has been hurt due to the stat changes rework. But yeah, it's still a crazy move. Maybe could have been nerfed harder. The double exhaust is really, really harsh. Feel a lot of the times. To lose like 6% of your HP and have double exhaust applied onto you, it feels really bad.
Metabolize, hold turns reduced from 2 to 1. You think it might see some gameplay?
I mean, it's cool. I mean, it's nice that the holders were reduced. But will it see gameplay? I suppose if Golda finds a way into the meta. I believe 𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃 has this move as well. So yeah, it's a good buff. I don't think it's gonna be super popular, in all honesty.
Oh, Revitalize gets a nerf. I didn't really expect that or saw that at least. Healing reduced from 25 to 20%. Stamina reduced from 23 to 20.
This is one of those nerfs I was surprised to see.
Yeah, I mean...
And honestly, I kind of wish they didn't touch it at all, in my opinion. Because it's just like... They're really hurting stall at this point. With this change to Reviv, even though it's just 5%, I'm sure they reduced the stamina, but the stamina's not really... Like, you want the healing more.
The thing is, they are touching the parts of the stall that were kind of balanced, you know, like Revitalize was never the problem. It was the buffs, which were stacking up pretty quickly, right? That's what people were complaining about, not Revitalize.
Reviv it's pretty... Healing is strong in Temtem because it is a tankier game. But by hitting several parts of stall simultaneously in one patch, I think you might have a situation where stall might be unplayable. I'm saying might because it might be completely fine, to be honest. And what do I know? It's only day... Yeah, it's still the same day of patch. So yeah, stall might be fine, but I'm not surprised that people think stall is going to be pretty bad or pretty hard to play with all these simultaneous nerfs to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so many nerfs from different directions, like just one thing that is completely affecting something else, but it is also indirectly affecting stall as well, technically. Kind of stuff. Okay, let me skip the stamina cost moves. But stamina has been reduced for most of them. I do not see any increases here, at least.
Yeah, it's just all around stamina reduction. Big ones are Cooperation. Feather getting his stamina reduced after it was increased last patch. Photosynthesis is now 0. See, all of these are pretty big stamina changes.
Noxious Bomb is getting a buff. 95 BP back to 100. I think it was 100 before, right?
It's kind of an irrelevant buff. Sure, it's more damage, but it's just 5 BP. Nothing too serious, in my opinion.
Darkness priority increased from very high to ultra. What does darkness do? Do you know?
Darkness applies isolation.
So nobody's gonna use it?
Well, not necessarily. It like denies synergies, and now it's ultra prior. You're gonna always go first with. So I could see some people running darkness. Like it could be a pretty cool thing to have for certain situations.
Antitoxins. It will now apply 2 turns of Vigorized to the target.
It's interesting because...
𝗂𝗀𝗃𝗃 start?
Well, you can essentially apply 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 to a Tem. And most Tems won't be able to use the 𝗃𝗃𝗃 fully because it's low priority. Which kind of defeats the purpose of even... So it's weird, it's cool, but like making it low priority...
If this was ultra prior, then it would make sense, or maybe even very high. 3 prior,
they just kept it the same. They kept it the same. I think people would make use of this on Tems with like high stamina costs. And just make sure to outspeed it, but it's a weird one. It is a weird one.
Meteor Swarm's energy burn increased from 1 to 2. I think that's a good one.
Yeah, it's nice because you can actually use the burn tick to reduce the damage because Meteor's form will normally be going less. So yeah, that's just a make sense change. You get 6.5% more damage and you reduce the damage of your opponent's next turn as well. So yeah, it's a good change. Makes sense.
𝗬𝗵𝗶 Rain synergy. Healing to allies increased from 18 to 20 and enemies reduced from 12 to 10. I guess it's a good buff, but not many times use this technique.
The only time I've used Silent Rain myself, and the only time I've used it is when I'm playing like really like hard stall like teams because or like Doom for example, because you just want to heal. I believe I used it on moments, and I'll leave it a Silent Rain or as a rotation I would do every now and then depending on the situations. Yes, it's nice. You reduce the healing of your opponents with the synergy, so yeah, you want the synergy even more now. So yeah, it's a buff. It's still going to be a niche move regardless. This buff isn't going to make it like common, but you know, it's nice that they did get that.
I mean, stall gets at least a little bit of buff in some direction, but not the one that everyone uses, kind of thing.
Well, it's like it doesn't even really help stall. Like its face, like this works if you want to go to turn 30. Like that's your game plan, turn 30. And most stall teams, crazy enough, actually don't want to go to turn 30. They prefer to end the game sooner. So if you want to go to turn 30 or you're playing Doom, this is a nice addition. But if you're playing like stall, but you want to end the game before 10:30, or it's not your intention to go to 10:30, this doesn't really help because you are benefiting your opponent to a degree. So it's a weird one. It is a weird one.
So next up we have Horror. Damage increased from 165 to 175. Thoughts on this?
Move is still not going to be used very often.
It was barely being used in the current patch, even with 165 damage, because sleep is just something you are not seeing that much.
Sleep into Horror, it's kinda... I believe it's actually because Horror has one hold. That's why nobody uses this. Like, late Torment has no hold, so you could actually like make use of it. If this move had no hold, for just a 0 hold, I think people would use this move more often with things like 𝗬𝗵𝗶, we have Jinx Whisper as well. So like, I think the hold is holding this move back. It wasn't the BP. I don't think it was the BP at all, to be honest.
I see. Hibernate healing reduced from 40 to 35%, and also Divine Inspiration healing reduced from 20 to 15%. I guess both nerfs to our stall gang players, 𝗬𝗨 and 𝗬𝗵𝗶.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hibernate did heal you too much. To be fair, Hibernate did heal you too much. Like 40% is such a huge number, especially when it's on a Tem. As much HP and defensive as 𝗬𝗨. Yeah, as much bulk as 𝗬𝗨. So that's honestly fine. 𝗬𝗵𝗶 getting Divine Inspiration nerfed 5%. So the thing about Pig is, Pig should never have the ability to. It's weird because on one end I kind of like this, on the other end don't really like because there's so many things I hate for stall. It's just Pig's ability to like buff its allies and like heal them and then protect them with bamboozle. That's like kind of really hard to deal with after it gets past turn 1. See, I have mixed opinions about the Divine Inspiration nerf.
I mean, if I look at it from my perspective, Divine Inspiration was a good move, but Pig just feels sometimes so tanky and hard to kill because of the bamboozle it has. And nowadays people are also running the drum on it, so well, if you kind of have to focus the Pig, but if it uses bamboozle, it's just gonna be more and more annoying to kill him, kind of thing. And if you kill him, and it has one of the better typings in the game, which is Wind. Kinu, for example, is weak to Fire, Toxic, and Crystal, and Digital. So there's 4 weaknesses right there. And Pig only has the 1 weakness while being tankier than Kinu overall, I believe. Yeah,
so
and there's not many Mm-hmm.
And when Pig starts to get going, it's like so hard to deal with. So I think a Pig nerf makes sense, but I don't know if Divine Inspiration is the thing you wanted to hit.
I mean, that is a Pig only move, so I guess it's a direct hit to Pig. Apparently.
Yeah, they only wanted to hit Pig because if you touch something else, unless you touch its stats, its space stats, I suppose. But
yeah,
still that makes sense.
They just wanted to hit the Pig, so they took a move that is only on Pig, kind of thing. Paralyzing Poison. This is a bit interesting. Poison tones increased from 2 to 4, and if it is synergy, then 6 tones of poison, 75% flat damage. What's your hot take on this?
Paralyzing Poison is 2 hold. So honestly, I kind of like this change. I don't think it's even going to be that popular, I think. But yeah, I kind of like this change. It makes a move that saw no play before, and might and this buff might convince people to try it out, and you're gonna see more variety. So yeah, six poison ticks is very strong, but
if you pull it off.
Yeah, but an easy way to do it is just make use of 𝗧𝗃, get your 5, I believe it's 5 poison ticks with 𝗧𝗃 on turn
4.
number 1. 4? Okay, 4 ticks of poison ticks with 𝗧𝗃 synergy on turn number 1, so now I have to wait till turn number 3. So yeah, I think 𝗧𝗃 is still better than Paralyzing Poison, but it is definitely is a cool change, and I believe it traps as well.
Yeah, it traps as well. It's not written here, but it does trap.
Yeah, it does trap. So even more utility there. But I still think 𝗧𝗃 turn 1 is better if you want to apply like big poison ticks onto a target.
Intimidation cost increased from 16 to 18 and also applies evasion to the caster.
This is it's pretty cool because you could do some interesting things with the Kaleidoscope item. So you could passive it. I think Kaleidoscope might have gotten nerfed, so it might not even work. But applying the evasion to yourself is really nice, and you apply overexert. Not overexert, you apply
exhaust.
Exhaust, yes, you apply exhaust to the enemy team. So it could, so like you protect yourself or potentially your ally if Kaleidoscope does work with this move. And yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if we'll see a lot of play, but it is a better move. I like that buff.
𝗧𝗵𝗶 damage reduced from 110 to 105. Synergy 125 to 120. Why do I feel like?
Go on.
That everyone was playing 𝗧𝗵𝗃 in the last patch, and it was so overused that they decided to do this. Because otherwise, he was doing okay. Or am I being biased?
Well, 𝗧𝗵𝗃 was really, really strong, and it can wipe teams by itself essentially. So yeah, I think it's kind of, this nerf by itself is kind of a slap on the wrist kind of nerf. It's not really too impactful, but 𝗧𝗵𝗃 will feel it every now and then.
Well, the problem is, this isn't a big nerf, but there's a lot of other things that are being nerfed that is in 𝗧𝗵𝗃's kit. For example, Stonewall is getting a bit touched, and well, 𝗧𝗵𝗃, I used to use it on 𝗧𝗵𝗃, but regardless, let's go to the next. We have Hallucination Synergy, damage increased from 50 to 100.
It's pretty interesting, this one, because it's basically, when I first saw it, it's like a special toxic move you can use on Ninja Soul turn 1 if you have the synergy. Like mixed Ninja Soul is something you could do, and you could hit with 100 BP special move and apply 3 poison ticks as well. So that was my initial thought. It gives Mix also gets this move. Mix also has access to a special toxic move now if it does get access to the synergy. So yeah, it's like really good it's cool that it got doubled. Will it see a lot of play? Probably not. I believe Nox gets this as well.
Yeah, Nox has it as well.
So special Nox is something you could try. Even though it is reliant on the mental synergy. Relies pretty heavily on the mental synergy actually. Or you will do no damage, I believe. Without synergy, I think it's no damage. So yeah, it's pretty cool buff. I like it. I
Hope
think it's
people
a good
try it.
idea.
Hopefully we can see some people trying it out in the tournament. Next up we have Untangle. I think it is now gonna grant +1 defense and special defense to the target when removing the trapped situation. I do have a feeling people might start running Untangle. Do you know the priority of this move?
No, I'm not. This move has never been used before. Actually, I think I don't even know what the animation looks like. I think.
But this
All I know
from
is that it untraps you.
yeah, but from the reading of this, at least it looks like a good move now because it's another way to give buffs and remove the trap
Well,
as well.
I
If
know 𝗀𝗵𝗃 gets it. I think 𝗀𝗃 does
so,
get it.
if this thing is ultra prio, then basically you can untangle your teammate and he can swap out, while getting the buff. So it can be huge depending on the prio of this move itself.
You could probably do a 𝗀𝗃 combo, cage into Untangle, and 𝗀𝗃 gets +2/+2 that way.
Ooh, that is.
It is only +1, by the way, which is only 25%. It's not the 50%. I have my doubts over this move. I don't think it's going to be that crazy, but it is actually a really interesting thing you could run. But I think most Tems would prefer to run something else in their kit most of the time. So I'm not really sold on it. It's definitely better. It's cool, but I don't know if the move will see like that much play.
Okay, brace. It will now also heal 10% of the target if they had the alerted status condition. It will now also remove the alerted status condition after applying the text effect. I don't think it might still be used.
Well, you have to combo this move because this move relies on you being alerted. And the way to get this status to use Lookout, I believe, which is the move under it, which gives you that alerted. But you can now use Lookout through sleep to wake up, so you could just wake up while you're asleep. I think these two moves are terrible, to be honest.
Yeah, they don't make much sense because they require you to have a secondary factor in order to even work with what they say,
I think these two moves are just really strange. You could run one. I guess you could run Lookout. Lookout by itself isn't terrible now because it's effectively you could just wake yourself up now. But brace is kind of really bad in my opinion. Yeah, I think it's pretty bad.
Next up we have Drought. The technique will now affect every Temtem in the battlefield but the caster. It also applies 2 tones of Seized.
I believe Drought reduces the... Is that Quicksand?
No, Drought I think is the one that reduces one speed, right?
I think that's Quicksand. Drought... I don't know what Drought does. No, I know what it does. I just can't remember. I think it applies Exhaust.
It's Exhaust for 2 turns, I think.
Yeah, I think it applies Exhaust.
Yeah, it's Exhaust 1 turn.
And I think the priority is pretty high, and the 2 turns of Cease is
kinda good.
But is it good enough to warrant using? I don't think so.
It depends on what kind of a team you're using it in, maybe. Still very risky though, I think.
I honestly don't think this is going to be used too often unless you really want to seize things from your opponent. Maybe you would run Drought, but I just don't see any reason to use it personally currently.
So penance, priority increase from low to high, damage dealt to the target increase from 10% to 20%.
So it's pretty... That's actually pretty insane for 𝗀𝗃. Not going to lie. Moving from low to high means you get penance off if you get to the point where you can even click the move, because I think it's a high hold move as well. And sure, you lose 10% more HP, but clicking penance onto something else on your team is pretty huge. That is pretty huge. So yeah, that's a good change.
Well, this is kind of a big looking one. Sparks is now a high prio instead of normal.
Yeah,
I
it's high
guess.
prior, but it's only one +1,
Yeah,
so this
less.
is
Yeah, it's half than before in terms of
yeah.
damage.
So you lose 25% damage, but you have the 3 priority. The reasoning behind this is essentially so you can put your TVs elsewhere aside from speed as
Mm-hmm.
sparkers. So the thing is, OB10 is still
Mm-hmm.
going to build speed regardless of this change.
Mm-hmm.
Amphitheater. So I think Amphitheater. I've heard people say Amphitheater hates this spark change. I think Amphitheater kind of likes this spark change, honestly, because it
Yeah,
already has
because he
high.
doesn't have to put more points in speed at all. He has the 3 prio. He just needs to get to a certain point and he is good, right?
Yeah, he has really high BP and speed, the highest in the game,
Mm-hmm.
and he's already naturally fast. So if you have the 3 prior on sparks now, you don't have to invest in speed like pretty much at all or minimally. If
Mm-hmm.
you invest in speed on Amphitheater for just sparks by itself, so you can have a tankier Amphitheater, an Amphitheater that hits harder, whichever way you want to go about doing it. On 𝗧𝗵𝗶,
Mm-hmm.
on 𝗧𝗵𝗶, it's really interesting because combos like 𝗧𝗵𝗶, you could do when 𝗧𝗵𝗶 shows up, it's only on digital teams, and
Mm-hmm.
Falcon digital team because with its trait that gives the digital Tem the speed buffs, it's now easier to outspeed that digital Tem with sparks as 𝗧𝗵𝗶, so it helps it in that aspect. So it's a pretty good change for 𝗧𝗵𝗶. Well, the 3 pile is good for 𝗧𝗵𝗶, but the reduction in damage overall, I don't really know if it was fair to reduce sparks and leave PJab. It's the physical equivalent, essentially. Well, not necessarily, but the playstyles kind of go hand in hand. But with PJab to be the same way it was, yeah, we'll see. I think sparks will be fine, but I think it's going to be worse. And that's the intended plan, I guess, for it to be a bit worse because certain vocal people in the community believe that Sparks was kind of oppressive and really strong, even though when I viewed Temtem tournaments, I didn't really see too much of it. The
Yeah,
only two
Sparks is
people,
very here and there, It's not like every match is Sparks, but when you do see a Sparker, he knows ins and out of that strategy,
like the only two consistent Sparkers I see are 𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗃 and Arnold No Fear.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, Ali's been playing a lot of Sparks, but I haven't seen Ali play in the longest time. But
She
that's
has
just on
a
me.
80% win rate.
Yeah, that's
In
just
Dojo
on me.
Wars. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Dojo Wars. I'm not really watching Dojo Wars too closely.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like Latin stuff, it's just 𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗃 and Honor No Fear that I see kind of playing Sparks like on a consistent basis.
That's
So
fair.
yeah, I think it is a bit unfair that Sparks got treated the way it is, and I think the arguments for Sparks versus PJab aren't as straightforward as people pan them out to be, and I think that applies to both sides. It's actually, I think it's a somewhat complicated comparison, but yeah, that's just enough of my rambling on that, I suppose.
He's taking the footage, guys. He's taking the footage. Next up, we have Chain Hit. It is now a fire technique. It also now traps the target for 2 turns. Looks like an Anahir or Anatan exclusive move, right? It looks
Yes,
very
it's like
promising,
that.
to be honest, this one.
It's a huge. Anatan is a Tem you now have to respect, and you can lead it into 𝗵𝗵𝗃 now, and 𝗵𝗵𝗃 just can't heat up there for free. Well, actually, Anatan has Fiery Soul, but why would you run Fiery Soul Anatan? I guess you could actually, because
This is
special attack is the same.
This is 110 BP, 15 stamina, right?
Yes, the stamina being so low as well is really, really good for Anatan as well, because Anatan has its stamina problems, so it has a move it can spam now. Yeah, this is a really big buff for Anatan, and the 2 turns of trap means you could actually make plays with it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's actually a really, really good change for Anatan. So Anatan will now show up in the meta, and honestly, I think it will show up enough that people are going to be forced to undouble again. Back when
Definitely.
scalable was everywhere. So yeah, I think that this change meta is that good. That you might have to undouble to play a comp.
The last change we have for the moves is 𝗧𝗵𝗶. It is going to do -1 defense as well while doing the damage. I think it's okay. I don't really see this move being used much. Maybe this finally gives a benefit to use it.
The reason you don't see it is because this move is on 𝗬𝗧𝗃𝗃. 𝗬𝗧𝗃𝗃 is supposed to be the main user of this move, and I guess melee
𝗬𝗂𝗃 has it. 𝗬𝗂𝗃 has it as well.
𝗬𝗂𝗃 does have it, but I think 𝗬𝗂𝗃 prefer to run. Okay, they run it every now and then, so it's more utility for 𝗬𝗂𝗃. Does it make 𝗬𝗧𝗃 good enough to use oversized much? No, it doesn't. 𝗬𝗧𝗃 is still kind of bad. Still kind of. It's not. 𝗬𝗧𝗃 is not bad. It's just oversized much. It's always going to be oversized much until they like differentiate it.
I think they need to fully rework 𝗬𝗧𝗃 because as of right now, he just has the identity of worst size munch or scuffed size munch, basically.
I don't think they need to focus more on his sensei trait because he has a pretty cool trait there, but they don't give him much to do with it. Yes, he has Dust Vortex, he has Hook, and he has the melee chop, the special melee chop move that's not too high in BP anyways. So I think if they focus on that, he could differentiate himself from size munch. But right now, I would just always see 𝗬𝗧𝗃 with size munch.
Alright, let's get into the traits then. The first thing we have itself is apparently Scavenger right above. Healing reduced from 20 to 17%. Not a drastic nerf, but I think okay.
No, this nerf is terrible. This is such a bad nerf. I don't know why they would look at what is happening in the game and feel the need to nerf Flash.
Yeah, like it's out of nowhere.
It makes absolutely no sense that Flash is getting hit and it's struggling really, really hard right now. And I don't think that's going to change as well, especially when they're nerfing its HP regen and its ability to raid boss and 1v5 by itself. It's just,
and they are buffing Anaton by giving it a strong fire move.
Yeah, and there's now another fire in the meta too. Like, I just struggle to see how this is going to. Like, 𝗏𝗏 might be a C tier. Actually, I might be overreacting, but 𝗏𝗏 probably isn't going to. It's just got really. It's hard enough to play already, and now it got even harder. So yeah, I don't really like this change at all.
We shall see what Funky's next course of action is. Does he still continue, or he changes his ways to play? I guess.
We'll see. I don't know.
Next up, mirroring. Damage returned to the attacker reduced from 40 to 35%. Another nerf. This one goes straight to 𝗬𝗃𝗃𝗃. Do you think it's called for or just uncalled as well?
They should reduce it from 40 to 20% because mirroring does ridiculous damage when you get. So the knockback damage is actually so stupid on mirroring. If you hit it for like 80% of your health, you're gonna lose like 50% of your own health. It's so like old mirroring was perfectly fine. I don't know why they felt to buff it to this, and 5% is nowhere near enough of a nerf. I think it needs to get nerfed even further. But it is a start like this.
Cold-blooded actually got a buff. It is now working with frozen situation as well. Regenerating turns reduced from 2 to 1. So I guess Yowler is your ultimate freeze counter if you have the other trait. Do you think people might use it?
It depends how. This trait depends on how common freeze is going to be. If freeze is super common, people will play this. I've also heard some people say that hibernate. You can hibernate now in Yowler and not be frozen. Instead, you hibernate, heal 35%, and you get 1 regen tick.
That's actually
and you can just attack the next turn, but it's probably still worse than comebacker because you miss out on so much damage without comebacker. So yeah, I think you still play comebacker. If freeze is super popular, I guess you could play this. It's the only reason you play this.
Spreader damage reduction reduced from 33 to 20%.
This is kind of insane. It's
Yeah.
insane. So you get 80% of
The
the
damage on
damage
the
you
other
normally.
slot.
Yes, so it's actually pretty high DP. So the overall DP. This is really good. So spreading or like sparking a spreader 2 guy could be insane because
Mm-hmm.
maybe after a couple sparks you are possibly looking at wiping an entire board with a spreader tornado. It is very possible. So this is kind of a huge buff. Nobody was asking for this.
It literally
But
came out of nowhere.
yeah, it came out of nowhere, and I think this might be too strong.
The thing
But
is, everything that they're buffing or nerfing is 3 or 5% give or take. This one suddenly out of nowhere, 13% is kind of
yeah,
monk-ass on top of it as well.
yeah, maybe it'll be fine because it's 2Kai, and its type might hold it back, and weapons still exist as well, so people still won't even care to look at this thing, even with these changes. But if this was on another Tem with a more respectful type in, this would be kind of insane. It would be pretty insane.
That's fair. Next up we have Velocity. The once per turn restriction has been removed. I mean, back to
This
normal.
it's back. Well, it's not really because of the stat changes,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still worse overall. So P-Jab actually, if you get P-Jab, there's a Velocity certainly if you actually lose 1 defense.
Actually,
So this is like a compensation buff because Sunif got worse. Yeah, Sunif got worse. So yeah, kind of necessary that they had to do this.
I mean, Cernif got gutted in different departments as well. Revitalize also hits Cernif as well, you know?
Yeah, Sunny got hit with 𝗬𝗏 and the stat changes or buff changes. So yeah, kind of a necessary compensation buff.
Okay, let's move on to gears. The first one we have is the most annoying culprit of this latest patch, refreshing the 𝗂𝗶𝗆. Healing reduced from 50 to 40%, which I still think might be a lot. Maybe 35 would sound good, or 30. What do you say?
It's a good start. 10% might be enough. If it's too much, they'll just reduce it maybe another 5 or 10% next batch. The thing about this item is that you have to be in for. Well, you don't. You can actually switch in and out and get the item to proc when you want it to. So, yeah, the item is pretty good. It's a pretty strong item. And I think a nerf was kind of necessary. Another nerf to. Well, it's not necessarily a direct nerf to start, but still people like to use this item.
The most,
a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, the most. But I have seen 𝗂𝗽𝗃𝗃, an aggro player, make use of this item, and it's actually really cool to see. So yeah. It's a strong item, so it probably did deserve to get nerfed. Can't really complain too much about that.
Next up, we have Handcuffs. Trapped reduced from 3 to 2, and I think I'm neutral on this. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. We probably will find that out soon, I guess.
It's a weird one. I don't know why they felt the need to do this one. Yeah. I don't know why Handcuffs got nerfed.
Because 3 was kind of perfect because you could do a swap and then the swap would be the swap would also get 1 turn to kill, right? Because in 2 basically what happens is you trap them now and next turn if you swap in then the trap is over, you know? You can't really attack with what you kind of trapped in.
It reduces your playmaking ability. So the way to do it now is you have to trap them.
And on the same
turn, yeah, you have to swap it in. So
it limits the potential, I guess.
It limits the time and space you have to make plays with Handcuffs.
Okay, nutrition bar healing reduced from 7% to 6%. Still think it's a really good item.
Yeah, nutrition was insane. Really good item. I think the healing nerf is good because if you reduce it to 5, like what such low numbers with percentage wise, if you drop it to like 5, it might actually be over nerfed, possibly.
They're taking it slow on this one, I think. to
I think
experiment.
you kind of have to. So yeah.
Next
Yeah,
up,
good enough. Good enough.
Kaleidoscope. Status conditions redirected onto an alley. Now I have one less turn. I'm a bit confused on what this means. Like, if it is.
Essentially,
Mhm.
life or sap forward takes a regen. When you move it onto your ally, it's going to be 3 turns, so it just reduces that. So yeah, early on, I said Intimidation won't work with Kaleidoscope, but it's not going to. There's
So,
only 1 turn of evasion.
wait, so one turn of evasion would not pass on, right?
Yeah, if not to pass on, it'd be 0. It would be
Okay.
0.
So it removes
Unless...
basically Hejin outplay. So a Hejin thing that people were doing.
Was Hedging only 1 turn of evasion? I can't remember. Was it 2?
I think it was one, if I'm remember right. I'm not sure though. We can take a look at that in a bit. Next up, Chamomile looks like completely busted out of here. Immunity from 4 to 0. And apart from its previous effect, which remains, we have added a new effect. When the holder of this gear leaves the battlefield, every status condition applied to them is removed.
This change really confused me. Yeah, this is this is like as bad as the last change in my opinion. Not as bad as the last change, but it's pretty up there with how
I
bad it is.
see.
I don't understand why they need to do this. So
Mm-hmm.
it nerfs T strikers like Volgon who don't want to get exhausted by their own move. It
Mm-hmm.
it makes it harder to deal with freeze, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes teams that rely on poison ticks even better because now there's less things in the game, or one less thing in the game, that removes your status condition or your poison tick.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't get this change. I don't like it. I
It is
wish they
another one
didn't
that
do
is
it.
uncalled for.
Yeah, and they kind of force Camo Yala doesn't really make sense anymore, like
Mm-hmm.
at all. So now you have to play Matcha Yala if
Or
you're playing a
cold-blooded.
or cold-blooded. Maybe this is how they force you to play cold-blooded. But
Also,
I
Champ is
think
confirming that Gendrify will pass the evasion, and also Hologram from 2-wire passes the evasion as well, even if it is 1. So 1 is the lowest. It
okay.
does pass that.
Why would they word it as one? Anyways, it's fine. It's not English is not their first language. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the way they worded it was a bit weird. So yeah, I was wondering as well, is 1 the minimum? So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much it.